This week, jurors could not reach an agreement in the case of Keith Sandy and Dominique Perez, who shot and killed James Boyd while on duty as APD officers in 2014. Now, Mr. Sandy and Mr. Perez faced charges of murder, second degree specifically. A mistrial means the case can be tried again, but that would be a decision made by the next Bernalillo County District Attorney, because the current DA, Ms. Brandenburg, is not running for re-election this year. I'm joined at the table this week by Tom Garrity from the Garrity Group PR. Merritt Allen is here. She's from Vox Optima LLC. Christine Sierra, a retired UNM political science professor. And Russell Contreras is back, reporter with the Associated Press. Now, Russell, you're on the scene this week. Some of the top observations you made in and around the courthouse after the verdict. What was the sense of it?
The sense is that a lot of folks believe this is what we're going to get, a hung jury. The fact that we had three pushing for a guilty verdict was a surprise to a lot of folks. Even the activists I talked to thought getting three was something that they didn't anticipate.
Which direction? There should have been more than those three?
No, they thought that they would get, the fact that they got three to begin with at all.
Oh, no kidding.
Right,
okay.
That was, in a sense, a victory in some sense.
Interesting.
Because what a lot of activists that wanted was just the police to stand trial, just for some accountability.
Right.
And they felt that was a victory in itself. Right. But a hung jury was what was the popular belief, especially among reporters, that they said, but I just don't see how this can go either way. There seems to be some confliction. And because we have such a divisive discussion around this, that a hung jury seemed like to be probably the most probable outcome that we tend to expect.
Mary, did that surprise you that 9 out of those 12 said no?
I think it would be very hard to get a major felony out of what was to me the heart of bad policing, because I think a homeless camper with schizophrenia and essentially a freelance SWAT team, because these guys were off duty, that's an excessive response. Being part of that and that the policy that allowed that to happen is problematic. Being one of the people who shot the trigger in that heightened sense of anxiety and excitement, I don't know if that warrants a major felony conviction.
Interesting. Was it a bridge too far, Christina? What do you think? Was that for Ms. Brandenburg? To go these charges? Okay.
Oh no, I think given the divisiveness in the community, and also putting this in the larger context of outrage and conflict in many communities across the country with shootings by police and killings, I think there was indeed a lot of pressure to go forward with.
What do you make of the idea that Russell brought up that in some folks' minds this is almost an acquittal at some point, having a hung jury like this? It almost means like someone was proven right here. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
what do you make of that part?
Sure. Well, it's a lack of a conviction.
Right.
And the lack of a conviction seems to me that the police officers were acquitted, even though officially they weren't. What I think now needs to happen is it'll be up to the next district attorney to figure out if there's a retrial. But what we have to do as policymakers, as leaders in the community and the community as a whole, is figure out where we improve things, how we improve things.
Right.
And I think, again, at the local level, there are some possibilities. Bernalillo County has now a behavioral health task force and some monies devoted to doing something. On the one hand, we've got excessive police force as an issue. On the other hand, we have mental health illness as an issue.
That's right.
Somehow we have got to grasp these two domains and figure out a way of solving problems and stopping the conflict that ends up in tragedy.
Interesting. Tom, on the idea of bringing this to trial again and try to retry this whole thing, we've had statements from the mayor, from the APD, from a lot of different people saying, look, let's just move on. You know, maybe not that quite stark, that wording, but you know what I mean. You know, we've put it to bed, let's move on. What is to be gained, I suppose, beyond the legalities of trying this again? Would the community support that idea, or is it a small part of the community? What's your sense of that?
You know, I think the community got what it needed
Okay.
out of this first trial. And you know, if there is a second trial, I really think it's more of it's a matter of exercise to say, okay, let's take this through fruition. Right. Let's see if we get a conviction or acquittal on either side.
Right.
You know,
could you blame anybody if they still wanted to go down that road? If the next DA, you know how careers go. District attorney is an interesting thing. You could make a lot of hay with something like this.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about that, because if you're the incoming district attorney, you know, you don't want you're going to need to address this one way or another. And do you want somebody else's decision or somebody else's trial to really affect, which it will, your first 100 days of trying to establish new leadership? From a community perspective, though, I think that there won't be as strong a cry for a retrial, and here's the reason why. And I think Randi McGinn really kind of put it into very simple terms: is that Albuquerque got the truth. I mean, she didn't say that exactly, but she said that something along those lines. And here's why that's important: is that when you look at how a new situation develops, initially you have speculation and accusation. And, that's really where this whole thing has been for the last 2 years, basically, is at that accusation phase. Well, the trial provided a lot of information about what happened, what's the strategy, how is it that we had 17 officers out there to take care of a camping charge, okay? And so what happened is that news bottle, you had fact replace speculation, accusation, and clues. And so from a community perspective, I think people have enough information to move on. Whether or not there's enough information for litigators to move on, I guess the new district attorney will determine that.
That's an interesting point, that last point there, as a matter of fact. Pick up on that, Russell, if you would. The new DA coming in, there's going to be, like Tom mentioned, some choices. But for Ms. Brandenburg going out, what does this mean? I mean, she hung a lot, and Randi McGinn and others as well. What does this mean to actually lose this one, so to speak?
Well, this is also an indictment of the officers, but it's an indictment of the police department in 2014, not 2016 or 2017. And at this time now, we're under DOJ agreement, a consent decree. They're going through reforms. So all those concerns about 700 rounds or whatever rounds surrounding a man with 2 knives, that is an indictment of the police force 2 years ago. Now we're at a different phase. Now they're going through reforms, and this is putting pressure on those reforms to go through amid a lot of resistance. But I think that we have to put that in context, and now we're looking at a different police force this year, next.
Does it hasten those reforms in any appreciable way? Because our monitor has had some tough words lately about the pace of reform. Does this help push that appreciably further down the road?
What I think this could do is the activists that were protesting out this week, right after the mistrial, if they start going to these meetings and pressuring these reforms, then we can have a different discussion. Because right now it's at a policy. It's for us, the people who are interested in. Not a lot of community activism, but I think this could be a game changer for them.
Right. Merritt, there's a lot of angst out there on Facebook and other places at the fact there was even protests anyway. The jury had spoken, let's move on. There was a lot of that. I'm wondering about your sense of where that bottle still is. Is it still pretty pressurized at this point as you see it? I mean, or in just a couple of days, it's just going to sort of dissipate after a little bit of time?
Well, I think I agree with much of what Tom said. We've gotten the facts out. We know what happened. To Russ's point, that was bad policing. We know what happened in 2014 was not okay. We have a new DA. The secret grand jury, we hope, is over.
Forgot about that, but
and there's, and that was a big step forward. The pressure put on the existing DA to stop the secret grand jury procedure, where every single police shooting was considered in the line of duty. This is a big change. So this process has happened. The move toward more transparencies, the release of video, of body camera video, everything is moving forward. So I feel that the bottle about to explode, as you're putting it, that's based on, I think, a lot of national events across the country and furor that's built up on social media in general about police violence. Albuquerque certainly, sadly, helped put the issue on the map, but I think we've moved largely past that. And so I hope that our local activists can see the differences between what's been achieved locally to what's happening nationally.
Gotcha. Mr. Sandy and Mr. Perez are going to be looking for their jobs back at this point, Christine, and it could happen. I mean, it could happen. How could the community, certain segments of the community are going to find that very distasteful to have these men back in uniform?
I don't want to really focus on the moment in time where these 2 individuals are the focus of what has happened.
Okay.
Because it really is something much beyond them. And I think it is an indictment of a culture, of an organizational culture in law enforcement that does dovetail with the story nationally. It seems to me that what we're going to have still is major feelings among some segments of our community, and I'm thinking of poor people, people who feel vulnerable, racial minorities, or in the case of New Mexico, it may be the Hispanics especially, but people who feel that they are throwaways or that they don't have power to stand up to power.
Right.
And so we're talking about a vulnerable individual, Mr. Boyd. He was white, not racial minority, but there are parallels with these stories in multiple communities across the country that we're looking at power in terms of police and law enforcement versus the powerless and the vulnerable of whatever dimension they are. And that's a real important and ongoing conflict to address in our country.
Good point there. Now, when we come back to the line, we'll talk about local reactions to the latest news from the presidential campaign trail. But first, we go back to the Navajo Nation for the second part in our coverage this week of Native voters who have the environment at the top of their priorities this year in the election.